We present Genius, thinking outside the stupid box. Here is your host, Dave Gorman.
Hello, I'm Dave Gorman and welcome to Genius, the show all about your ideas. Every week, a celebrity guest and I examine a selection of innovations, inventions, follies, fancies, stratagems and all-round whizzer ideas in a quest to unearth genius. Tens of thousands of ideas have been submitted to us by you, the Radio 4 listeners, and they were variously intriguing, inspiring, fascinating, and in some cases downright confusing. Most confusing of all was perhaps this suggestion sent to us by Frank Lloyd via email. My idea is this, writes Frank. We simply create a network of computers that anyone can plug into, a sort of World Wide Web, if you like. That way, people can share information with others wherever they are and even send letters to each other instantly in the form of electronic mail, or as I would call it, email. Thank you, Frank. A lot of our correspondents, even some of those using old-fashioned pen and ink letters, were more aware than Frank of the Internet's existence, and many wanted to utilise it in a new way. Internet-based ideas that haven't made it to the show include the mouse-operated mouse, a hide engine to stop other people finding your website, and an online hairdresser's. Of course, we wouldn't dare to present our special guest with ideas such as these because it would be an insult to his genius, and a genius he most certainly is. With Peter Cook, he was a founding member of the Establishment Club, which kick-started the satire boom of the 1960s, and he's been at the forefront of British satire ever since. Today, he's best known as one-third of Bremner, Bird and Fortune, or one-half of Bird and Fortune, which certainly narrows it down algebraically, but he's always been well known as all of John Fortune. John, thank you very much for coming. It's very good to have you.
Pleasure.
Do you have any genius ideas for us this evening?
Well, I had one genius idea for making money in the 60s, because I had a girlfriend who was a designer and was at art college. What I thought we'd do is design petticoats, and she would decorate the petticoats with transfer prints of Sigmund Freud, and people would rush to buy Freudian slips.
Well, there you go. I think we are now convinced that we are in the presence of genius. We have several potential geniuses in the studio tonight, John.
Oh, good.
And they're going to present you with their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk the ideas through and discover which of these people you consider to be the real deal, a genius. When we get to the end, I'll ask you to choose your two favourite ideas, and the audience will then choose which one will earn the much-coveted Genius Trophy. Oh, yeah. It really is something special, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Let me tell you, if you go to the finest jewellers, the finest trophy makers in all of Europe, you won't find anything like that sitting on. You really won't. So let's crack on. Our first idea comes from the delightfully named Steve Dunbobbin from Hull.
Dear Genius, I'd like to introduce Your Dumped Day, a week or so before Valentine's Day. Primarily because I remember spending loads on an ex for Valentine's Day one year, only to be dumped the day after. If she'd have sent me a Your Dumped card on Your Dumped Day, I'd have saved myself a packet and ultimately felt a lot less bitter than I did.
OK. John, how does this grab you?
By the balls.
As well it should.
I think this is a wonderful idea, because dumping is all about timing. I remember being in Durham looking round the cathedral, and afterwards I went to the tea shop in the cloister, and it was very crowded, and I sat down at a table where a young man and woman were having tea, and the waitress came along and said, "Are you two together?" And the woman said, "Not for very much longer." So I think if you could formalise that process by having a day, I think that would be simply wonderful. I mean, there are days, aren't there? I mean, I wake up in the morning and hear on the radio that today is Margarine Day. or it's Global Dandruff Week.
Both have their place.
Yes, absolutely.
Would it be called Your Dumped Day?
Well,
or
any
Dear
variation.
John Day, or my idea would be Darren Day. But do you have a kind of a formal name for this?
Well, it's fairly loose.
Okay.
Like most relationships.
But it's not going to stop people dumping you on any other day of the year, is it?
Well,
at the moment, we have 365 Your Dump Days a year.
I think by formalising, you'll make it a lot more of an amicable split. I really do.
I agree with that. There is a society in California, I believe, which encourages...
I'm not sure about that. I've been and everything.
And this society, if I can call it that, encourages newly married couples to divorce while they're still friends.
I've just always felt there's been a bit of a moral obligation with Valentine's Day, whether you like the person or not, if you're with them, that you do have to buy them a card and a bunch of flowers, meal, that sort of thing. Well, if you do it a week before and you can actually turn around and sort of forewarn them, say, like, save your money.
Yeah.
You're a nice guy and everything, but, save your cash.
So it's like the anti-Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would it also be anonymous? Would be a bit confusing, wouldn't it?
Loads of hate, question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I look forward to waking up on your dump day and getting 17 cards.
Maybe you're two-timing someone and you get an anonymous You're Dumped card and you don't know who's dumped you. That's going to be a pretty tricky negotiation, isn't it?
I was lucky to find one that'd keep me.
I can imagine. But what these cards don't have is a day. And you're suggesting a You're Dumped Day?
Yes.
Which, I'm just not sure, because... So, is it sort of kinder to dump someone on that day?
I think so, yeah. I think there's going to be a level of expectancy, isn't there? Of, like, you wake up... if you're on dodgy territory with with your girlfriend or with your boyfriend, then you can wake up with a sort of air of anticipation that you're going to get a card. Which I think would be quite nice. To combat that, on your dump day, you could have a card saying, you're all right. You're getting your bunch of roses.
Okay, I can see the value of Your Dumped cards. It's sort of just bad news from a coward. But it isn't down to me. John, I have to ask you, is Your Dump Day genius or not?
I think it's genius, and thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
There you go, Steve. Okay, well, our next idea comes from Bocky Rosenberg, and he's from South Africa, but now lives in Muswell Hill.
Dear Genius, when dealing with rioters, police across the world often use tear gas. Why not use laughing gas instead? It would still incapacitate people, but in a nice sort of way. And I have done some research on the internet into the effects of nitrous oxide, and it says that when they first discovered nitrous oxide, it was discovered by a chap called Priestley, and he said that people would laugh and act silly until the effect of the drug came to its abrupt end, when they would stand about in confusion. Well, I think that's a wonderful way to sort out the Middle East, if they all just laughed and then stood about in confusion. Wouldn't that be better than what we have now?
Yeah, now, I'm just going to analyse one sentence you came up with there, because it had a promising start when you said, I've done some research. But then it dipped sharply with the words, on the internet. Yeah. It's not all true out there. We'll give you some sound to see what we're really talking about here. John, this is the sound of a riot. Okay, and you're proposing to change that sound to this. Which, on the whole, does sound like quite a good idea, I think, at first go.
I think we're verging on genius here. I'm a bit worried about the stocks of, is it called nitrous oxide?
Oxide, yes.
Yes. I don't think you need that, you see. I think that you just confront any situation that emerges with extracts from Tony Blair's speech to the Labour Party conference.
I also thought, actually, that the police could also use helium when they're instructing people to drop their weapons. They could take helium themselves, and they'd be, drop
So
your
their
weapons!
voices-
Like,
yes,
that
yes.
would add to the general levity of things.
Why not just use helium on the rioters,
What?
so you get a protest that only the dogs can hear?
You could, but yes, you could do that, but I just thought that the laughing was quite important. There's not enough laughter in this world.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And I think that there would be things that would follow on from this, like, for example, weapons manufacturers might then start producing toys. So they send a consignment of guns to Uzbekistan, and they open them up, and they've got all these guns that have little flags that come out saying bang.
Yes. So also, I suppose, whoopee cushions
Yes, why not?
would stop the Taliban in their tracks.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, we did want to try out the laughing gas theory on the audience tonight. We wanted to throw some in there. BBC lawyers stopped us.
Oh, I see.
We weren't actually allowed to.
I was hoping...
Well, it's odd, because they've certainly broken those rules before. I've heard the audience on My Hero. But we're not allowed to do it. There must be some harm that comes with it. But obviously, these are
Well, I
writers,
thought, well,
so who
if it
cares?
wasn't an audience, maybe you could select some people. I was thinking maybe if you got, say, Jerry Adams, Martin McGuinness, Ian Paisley and David Trimble in a studio and then put the laughing gas in. And if you can get a laugh out of them, you could get a laugh out of anybody.
Yeah. Have you really done some research on this, or have you just watched Carry On, Doctor? I'm not quite sure that's what laughing gas actually does. I'm not sure. Let's be formal about this. John, is laughing gas for riots genius or not?
I think it's genius. Thank you very much.
There you go. We're going strong, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the presence of genius. Let's see how our next idea does. It comes from Paul Stevenson, and he's from Guildford.
Dear Genius, my idea is to add a fake brake pedal on the passenger side of the car, so that when nervous passengers instinctively try and brake, they are reassured by the pedal they find there. Further reassurance comes from the injection of Valium they get from a needle contained in the brake pedal.
Should we take this idea in stages? To begin with, there's the reassurance of a brake pedal that doesn't work. So, as reassurance, what you're doing is offering a passenger a car with an extra brake pedal that doesn't work, a Valium dispenser, and a needle big enough to penetrate your shoes. In a nutshell, that's the idea, yeah? Would you be reassured by this, John?
No. No, I wouldn't. And I'd be particularly alarmed if, when I pressed the brake, whether it was fake or not, nothing happened. Because that's what I'm afraid is going to happen to the person on my right.
Well, hopefully they would indeed press the real brake.
But I don't know that. And I'm pressing the fake brake. And I'm getting more and more in a panic.
No, the Valium sorts that out.
But that could be dangerous in itself. Say, I'm driving, and I've got an annoying passenger who just keeps talking. And I think I'd like to tell them to shut up, but I'm English and polite and reserved, so instead I'm going to drive really dangerously and let the Valium take its course.
Well, I'm very worried about the Valium, you see, even if it can go through your foot. And also, to go back to dumping day, this passenger may be someone you're terribly in love with, and you want her to be conscious by the time you make your move.
Depends on who you are, to be honest.
Well, I'm old-fashioned, you see, Dave. I like them to be awake.
Well, that would be all the more encouragement to drive safely.
As I wouldn't want to get into a long-term relationship with someone who didn't implicitly trust my driving. I think the nervous foot is a sign of a deeper rift in a relationship.
It is. And it can happen in bed. the nervous foot, I mean.
Yes. I don't know, you could just take the floor out of the car on that side.
Oh, that happened.
Yeah.
That happened when I lived in Ireland for a while, and after I'd been there for a few days, I was going down a Boreen little road, and in front of me there was a horse box, a trailer for a horse being towed by a Land Rover, and I couldn't understand why it was going so slowly until I realised that the floor of the horse box wasn't there anymore, and the horse was walking.
That's a horse that loved the Flintstones, isn't it? Well, then, if there is no floor there, when you put your foot down, it actually does slow the car down a little bit.
And it's also exercise.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be more dangerous than frequent Valium injections.
Yeah.
Well, speak for yourself.
You seem quite taken with the idea, John.
I'm taken with half the idea. I like the pedal.
Yeah.
I don't like the value.
OK. So, on balance, is this genius or not?
No.
There you go. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. There you go, Paul. The afterthought of Valium was actually the petard by which you were hoist. Never mind. Our next idea also comes from Guildford, and it comes from Catherine Heather.
Dear Genius, instead of using lots of left-handed versions of things, my idea is a glove that you put on your left hand that is actually a right hand.
OK. So I'm just clarifying the idea. You put onto your left hand a glove which has a right hand on it.
Yeah, so you've got two right hands.
OK. Are you a left-hander yourself?
I am, yes.
OK, so this is the solution to your own problems with the world.
Well, yes, left-handed scissors don't work for me, so maybe a right hand would.
We've got a catalogue of left-handed products here to see what you're saying is your product would wipe out this entire catalogue. But largely what the catalogue contains is scissors and cartridge pens. As a right-hander, I think we're often very sceptical of the problems of left-handers. So we bought a pair of left-handed scissors so I could see what it was like in a left-handed world by trying to use left-handed scissors with my right hand. There is a problem. If you'd like, you might as well cut up the catalogue, to be honest with you. Try and cut them with your right hand and see if you can appreciate how left-handers feel in the world. I think if we know the problem, we can appreciate it.
Oh, it is terribly difficult, Heather. terribly difficult.
Yeah.
I've only managed to cut the corner off this catalogue. If I'd known you were going to ask this question, I have a wonderful book at home called Bedroom Manners for the Left-Handed.
What are you implying there?
What I was implying? Nothing. It's a wonderful book. I've never been able to put its precepts into practice because I'm right-handed. But how to undo a bra when you're left-handed is a whole chapter in itself.
I can imagine, yeah. And in fact, I am imagining.
Yeah.
Very good chapter it was too.
Yes, it's absolutely fine.
We do try to road test every idea that we can on the show, and so we have built a sort of rudimentary version of this. I've got it here. So I'm putting this glove on my left hand, and we struggle a bit with making the mechanical right hand. So, John, if you wouldn't mind putting... So I now have, on my left hand, John's right hand. Which, at least it acts as some kind of simulation for a mechanical right hand that could be there. And now I think John would find it much easier to cut with the right-handed scissors than I would with the left-handed. So we can demonstrate now. Would you like
It's
to...
a piece of cake.
But this is where I discovered some of the problems that come with this idea, because one of the great things about your hands, having two, is that they face each other. And with a right hand on my left hand, they're now both facing the same way. So, for example, if somebody would like to toss a tennis ball my way, and we'll try and catch it, and you'll see that it's quite difficult, because my hand's there.
I can cut it, though.
Yeah. I don't know if you're solving much of a problem, is what it comes down to. The catalogue is full of some ridiculous... There are left-handed boomerangs. Nail scissors. You have to use your other hand anyway. My main problem is that there are certain things you can't do with two right hands, like catching a ball.
Well, you've actually done it differently than what I was imagining.
OK, explain.
I was imagining the hand to be going the same way, but just sort of extended onwards.
So it's facing your right hand?
Yeah.
So the thumb would have to be at the bottom?
Yeah.
Well, certainly cutting your nails would be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
Apart from that, you're wearing a glove?
Yeah.
I can't really appreciate the problem, so I'm not convinced that this is a solution. But that might be my ignorance, and I'm not a genius, as we know. So John, I have to ask you, the right hand on a left-hand glove, is it genius or not?
Well, she's a lovely girl, but it's not.
OK, well, it is time for our final idea, and this comes from Philip Edwards, who's from Cardiff.
Dear genius, to go to Mars, you have to take enough stuff with you to keep the astronauts alive throughout the voyage out, the visit period, and the return flight. You also have to take enough fuel and technology to be able to lift off from Mars. Well, what if you don't want to return? Now, that reduces the payload by probably loads more than half. So what you do is you ask for volunteers from the scientific community who are, how shall we say this, getting on a bit. The question is simply this. Now look, you haven't got long left. How would you like it if you got to die on Mars? How proud we'd be of them giving their lives in the name of science.
Yes, I think this is a very, very, very good idea. But you see, the only limiting factor in your idea is that there have to be scientists.
Well, perhaps we could change that.
The shadow cabinet. Or the cabinet, indeed. But I'd love to see Margaret Beckett being blasted off to Mars. It would do my heart good.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're taking on board the science side of this. We're not just jettisoning people because we don't like them.
Why not?
Because that's a different idea. The idea is to further the work of the scientific community, but to save on resources by not having to come back. That's it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yes, but Margaret Beckett, you see, she could spend her time on Mars designing the perfect caravan. What a step forward that would be.
What if there is life on Mars?
Well, now that's an interesting concept because I actually thought about this. I thought, what would happen if these guys and, I suppose, ladies get there and then actually find something that needs to be brought back? What would mankind do then? How would the problem be resolved? I don't know.
You're putting your own idea down. My worry was more they meet life on Mars, and life on Mars has a load of old-age pensioners as ambassadors for Earth. That's what they're going to think the prime of mankind is. They're going to meet old-age astronauts whose first words are, "Hello, I'm 84." They're going to think that we're all individually numbered. But, see, I'm not sure how to play this, because I get the idea that John likes the idea, but actually he just likes the idea of jettisoning Margaret Beckett.
Yes, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And a few others.
So really, the idea is we want to send out some scientists who can then die on Mars and save us some of the payload, and the idea you're judging is John Fortune gets to send away a lot of people he doesn't like.
Well, I think that's genius.
Yeah. I won't even ask the question. I shall just say, we've got a result. Philip Edwards, you are a genius. Congratulations, sir.
Yes.
OK, John, we know which of the ideas you believed to be genius,
Yes.
but I need to know which are your two favourites.
My two favourites, on reflection, are You're Dumped and Mars.
In which case, I would now like to ask both Steve Dunbobbin and Philip Edwards to please retake the stage. So here we go. Let's just see how the audience feels. All those in favour of Your Dumped Day? And all those in favour of old-age scientists to Mars? And for the sake of clarity, all those in favour of Margaret Beckett to Mars? OK, Philip, this is the moment that every genius dreams of, surely. The moment that you take the trophy. Is it the best day of your life, do you think?
Can I just say that in all of my life, I have never, ever won a trophy.
In many ways, you still haven't. Our genius this evening, Mr. Philip Edwards. I'd like to thank our wonderful genius of a guest, Mr. John Fortune. And there is just time to read you a small selection of ideas suggested by our audience this evening, which include the automatic moustache, employing penguins as waiters, and the stretchy, elasticated ruler for when your ruler isn't quite long enough to measure that gap. Good night.
Genius was hosted by Dave Gorman and featured special guest John Fortune. It was devised by Ali Crockett and David Scott. The producer was